To create a timer in Orbs, first navigate to the Overlays tab. From there, click on the Timers sub-tab. In the top left, you'll see a timer type drop-down that is set to discipline. From here, you can select specific disciplines to create timers for. Alternatively, you can change the timer type to Encounter, where you'll be able to view or modify timers for boss encounters. In this example, we're going to create a shared timer which will be visible for all disciplines. First we'll select Create Timer, and the first step is to add a name for our new timer. Now we need to select what will trigger our new timer. There are many types of triggers in the Trigger On drop-down. But in this example we'll use Effect Gain. I've already copied a combat log ID for some effect that I'll paste into the Effect field. You can also use the effect name in your game client's native language. The next step is to filter the trigger by specific sources and targets of this effect gain event. In our case, we'll leave the Applied by field to any, but change the Applied to field to local player so it will only be triggered when I gain this effect. If this effect can be refreshed, like a heal over time, or a damage over time effect, you can specify what ability applies this effect and should refresh it. This is required due to a limitation in the logging that doesn't record reapplications of effects. After the trigger is all set up, we need to decide what is going to happen when this trigger is fired. You have two options. The first is to take the traditional route of showing some visual effect, either a countdown timer or an alert pop-up. The second, variable modification, I'll cover in a different video. The first choice to make when assigning visual effects to your timers is if you want an alert or a timer. Alerts have a dedicated window that pop up a colored bar with customizable text for 3 seconds when the trigger is fired. Timers will show up in the timer window and count down for the specified number of seconds. We'll choose timer here and set our duration to 10 seconds. We can also choose to use audio for our timer, but in this case we'll leave it with no audio. The Show Target toggle determines if the timer visual has the name of the target appended to the text. Since our target is always going to be our local player, we don't need that. The Hide Until text box is also something you can generally ignore. If you have a long-running timer that you don't want showing up until closer to when it expires, you can configure that here. Finally, we choose the color we want for our timer bar, and determine if it should be triggerable outside of combat or not and hit save.